Welcome to the KO Kitchen. Today we are talking Fillo Pastry. Fillo Pastry forms part of the culinary heritage of many people in this wondrous world, including Greeks. There are essentially two Fillo pastry making methods. One method is the rolling pin method, which I also call the dry method, and the other method is the hand stretching or hand tossing method, which I also call the wet method, and you will understand why very soon. The dough that you need to make and use for both of these methods is exactly the same. What you do to this dough determines which particular Fillo pastry you make. So let's go ahead and make the dough. Okay, to make the dough, we use 500 grams of plain flour that has not been sifted, to which we add 1 teaspoon of salt and mix that in. We then add 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil and 1 tablespoon of white vinegar. Mix that too, and we end up forming oily, lumpy flour, but that's okay. Then we add 1 entire cup of warm water. And mix that in. We're going to need to add more water, and so that's why I add the full cup initially. Mix it in and try and incorporate the flour, but as you can see, some of the flour remains unincorporated, so I now need to add some more warm water. Let me get some. We add the additional warm water a little bit at a time, and then mix it all in. Okay, still unincorporated flour. Let's add some more water. Mix it in. Okay, I'm looking for a dough that's soft but not too sticky. Okay, that feels pretty good. I'm just going to take it out of the bowl. In fact, I'm going to use the dough to clean the edges of the bowl. And now I'm just going to knead the dough for about 1 minute. Okay, I have about 800 grams of dough here. It's very ragged and very uneven in color, but that's okay. I'm going to divide this into 2 equal portions, which is about 400 grams each. And I'm going to use one of these balls of dough to make Fillo with the Wet Fillo method, and the other ball I'm going to use to make Fillo with the Dry Fillo method. The dough for the Wet Fillo method, I'm just going to set it aside for a minute and we'll deal with that later. The dough for the Dry Fillo method, what I need to do is I just need to pop it into a bowl and cover it with a damp towel and then let it rest. It needs to rest for at least 1 hour. 2 hours are better. 3 to 4 hours even better, and overnight if you can. It's amazing then to work with. So let me do that. I'm going to soak this towel and wring it out and lay it on top of our dough. We lay our damp towel on top of our dough and we set it aside to rest. Bye-bye, little dough. Okay, this is the dough ball that we are going to use to make the Wet Fillo Method Fillo, or the stretching method Fillo. It needs to be kneaded a bit longer to form a nice, smooth, even dough, so I'll do that now. There's our dough. What I'm going to do now, so this is a 400 gram dough ball. I'm going to divide it into 2 200 gram dough balls, and I'm going to roll them out into little discs. Okay, for the Wet Fillo method, what we need to do is we need to use a basting mixture. The basting mixture I'm using is a 50-50 of olive oil and melted butter. You can use just olive oil or just butter as well. I like this combination. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to baste my work surface a little and lay my dough disc on that. Then I'm going to use a rolling pin to just open it up. Okay, I'm now going to baste this plate and lay my dough disc on the plate and then baste my dough disc as well. Okie dokie. Disc number 1 and now disc number 2 coming up. Okay, I lay this disc directly on top of the other one and I baste that one as well. Now I need to leave these to rest for about half an hour, and then when I come back to them, the butter and the oil will have seeped into the dough and have made the dough nice and stretchy. Okay, we'll leave that to rest. See you in half an hour. The basted dough discs have rested for half an hour. It's now time to stretch them. So I'm just going to remove the top one and lay it down and just begin to stretch it. Place your hand underneath the dough and stretch it that way. You can pull it out this way. Just be very gentle, going around and around. And move it further up my bench. All right, and there you have it. And what you can do now is you can just scatter your filling over this whole phyllo sheet and then roll it up and end up with a log that you can then coil. What I'm going to do today is I'm actually going to fold this in half like so, into a semicircle. Okay, and I'm going to take half of my cheesy eggy filling and lay it across one end. I'm then going to sprinkle some sugar on the cheese filling and also on the phyllo sheet. Then I'm going to roll it up. And there it is. I'm just going to grab my pan and we'll lay it in the pan. So I'm just going to drizzle some oil on my pan. And I'm going to lay my log in the pan with the seam on the underside. Okay, we'll make the second one and pop that in as well. going to baste the top of these with some of that butter oil mixture. And we're going to bake them in a 180 degrees fan forced oven for about an hour. Okay, our tiropita logs that we made with the wet or hand stretching phyllo have cooled for about 20 minutes and we're ready to eat them. So let's have a look at these beauties. Okay, there we are, looking good, yummy and delicious, sweet and savory at the same time. So Kali Orexi. Okay, I'm now making phyllo using the Dry Fillo Method, also known as the rolling pin method. I let the dough rest for 2 hours and I divided it into 3 equal balls, and I rolled out one of the balls to about 2/3 of the size that I want for this phyllo sheet. As you saw with the Wet Fillo Method, so the hand stretching method, I needed to use a basting mixture to soften the dough and make it super stretchy. In contrast, this Dry Fillo method uses a dusting mixture, not a basting mixture, to keep the phyllo dry. So what happens is when the phyllo becomes tacky, I sprinkle it with some of this dusting mixture, and then I roll my phyllo sheet onto my rolling pin, nice and snugly. And I press down evenly all the way across the phyllo sheet, twice, 3 times. And when I unravel it, I know that the phyllo sheet won't stick to itself when it's dry and dusted in this way. In terms of which phyllo method is the better phyllo method, each one has its strengths and its weaknesses. The wet method is a much more quick method. This dry method is quite time and labour intensive. In terms of the phyllo that is produced, the dry phyllo method I feel produces a crispier phyllo that stays crispier for longer. The wet method also produces a crispy phyllo initially, but it tends to soften with time. Which one is better? Which one is not as good? Well, they're just different, I can't say, and it really depends on personal preference. If you would like to learn more about the Dry Fillo Method, please join me for one of my in-person, online or on-demand classes. I would love to teach you this life-changing method. In the meantime, Kali Orexi, Geyasas. Subscribe, save and share this video so we can make more quality content for you.